Welcome, everyone, to episode 20 of Parenting Autism.
Welcome, welcome.
And today we're going to be drilling down a little more into these social deficits. Sandy, you wanted to get a little more in depth on some social issues that Bryce has, and
you're coming along for the ride.
I'm along for the ride. I'll chime in as we go. She's got some ideas, so here we go.
Well, I have some thoughts about that. And welcome to anybody that's new to the podcast and hasn't heard any of our prior podcasts. We have talked in bit about how Bryce's social interaction is, and what we try to do on this podcast is kind of just bring you up to speed in our world, and we kind of do it week to week. But sometimes I like to take a topic and really, hit home on it and explain it in a little more depth than just what happened in the prior 7 to 10 days since a prior recording. And the last episode that we did, which was episode 19, we kind of touched on the 5 symptoms of autism that I had read in an article and how they apply to Bryce. And again, we don't try to come onto this podcast and explain how they apply to other people because we really don't know that. We are not experts in this field. We are just 2 parents that have been chosen by God to parent a beautiful little boy who does have autism, and we live in his world. And so trying to navigate that, we're always learning. And he was diagnosed when he was 2.5, and he's now more than 5.5. He's rounding up to 6 because he'll be 6 in about 3 months. And, in the past couple of years, we've learned a lot, and a lot of things have changed. So where he was on the social spectrum when he was first diagnosed at age 2, it's different now, but it's a whole new challenge, like we come over one hurdle and then we have to think about more hurdles, and we have to think about the future and preparing him for that. So that's why I felt like if we did a whole episode on it, it really may be beneficial to help others recognize that, because our mission is not only to have this therapy of talking about these things, to
with
each other. Yeah. And, and sharing that with others. We've opened up our home for that reason. We felt that calling. But I do hope that it also helps other people maybe recognize this in other adults and other children so that they can build on the compassion that we need in this world when it comes to autism. So.
Yes, I agree. More compassion.
You know what I'm saying? And so the more people can understand and recognize, oh, maybe they have autism because they are fill in the blank. That's what I really want to try to accomplish, by sharing all of this.
Cool.
So having said that, we have said that when Bryce was 2, where he was on the social spectrum was he was just starting to withdraw. He was one that actually engaged with us for the first 2 years of his life very well, and was meeting milestones, and we didn't have any concerns about him being social at all. He's very friendly. I remember we'd take him in the store and he'd be in the cart sitting up and he'd go, "Hey." You remember that? And he would say it to like strangers. Complete strangers, and then they look around and here's this little kid going, "Hey." So he had awareness of others. He was aware that people were in the room. He called us mommy and daddy. He knew mama and papa. He was very much aware of people and not in his own land. And then after he turned 2, things started to change a little bit. We kind of noticed it. And then it was like a very quick, rapid change that he totally withdrew and he was scared to be around mama and papa. And he stopped saying our names. He lost his language. And we started language therapy. And they really worked on social, trying to get him to engage with other kids. Because where he got his therapies, there were other kids his age, and I know that they would try to take him around to the room and, have him say hi to other kids to just acknowledge. And then we would go with a group of peers, also bowling, other kids on the spectrum, because they also needed that, and we try to get them to engage with each other. And then I think the big turn for him in that regard of being social was when we put him into school last year, and we put him into a typical VPK program, and he really grabbed the concept of friends and having a friend and making friends and playing with friends. And, they would give us reports from school how he would start, like first he would only go on one area of the playground and only with one person. And then he would learn to expand to other areas and other, things to play on at the playground and interact with different classmates. And yeah, like as we all do, we have our favorites that we kind of are drawn to, but he expanded beyond one or two, which was wonderful. But then we ran into the problem of he didn't know where boundaries were when it comes to having friends. And we did do a prior episode on this, so if somebody's listened to it, this will be the little recap. But we started struggling in the past year with teaching him social boundaries and when it's appropriate to hug somebody, when it's appropriate to kiss somebody. And we're on summer break right now, so we really haven't had that stress point as far as like with peers. But I do find that we're still out in public and he will randomly just want to go up and hug a complete stranger. Right?
Yeah, some strangers like that. I would say most strangers
because it's usually a lady that he goes up to.
Actually, it is. It's usually a lady. And they usually say they needed a hug. So
it's true. So it's been well received to this point because he's 5 and he's cute and friendly, and that's great. When he's 15, if he were to be doing the same thing, it would be more startling, And those are the things that I have in my mind, like, oh, it's so sweet. And it is. But we have to look at the big picture and try to, help him understand where it's okay, where it's not. So that's one part of the social that I know once he goes back into school may become a problem again. And, I'm not sure how we're going to continue to teach him all this, but we do have some tools in advance about personal space. And I got this one thing called Practice the Cactus, because a cactus has the needles and the spikes, so you don't want to get too close to a cactus. So I'm going to kind of take that and give him a visual with a cactus so he'll understand, you got to keep that space and not get too close and kind of practice the cactus. And, that's the kind of stuff that parenting him, we have to think about. And I'd rather be proactive than reactive. I don't want this to be a reaction like, oh, shoot, they're calling us at the school again because he keeps invading the space of other kids and the kids are getting upset and parents are getting upset. And I don't want that to happen. And I have heard those kind of stories that have happened, to other parents. So we're trying to just kind of be proactive and find tools now and kind of prep him for that. And because I'm sure there's going to be another friend or two, at least I pray he has friends actually, a friend or two that he feels very comfortable with. But I got to just teach him how, the right ways to interact with him. So, or with his friends. That's what I was trying to say there. So anyway, that's one part of social. But another part that was really replaying in my mind after we did the podcast this last time, and I felt like we didn't get deep enough, has to do with social and reading emotions, and not just reading other people's emotions, but reading other people's intentions. And I think intentions is the one that just kind of gets to me. And I will tell you why. And you and I really haven't talked in depth about this, but there is definitely something precious, but also naive about Bryce. Like, he does not understand at all. I don't think he understands at all what inappropriate behavior would be. And I'm just going to say it in like a sexual way. If there was somebody that he was with that wanted to do inappropriate things to him, I don't think he would understand that that was wrong. Do you agree with that?
I agree. And not only that, and that's why we have to be diligent. We have to be his, I don't know, quote unquote bodyguard or whatever.
Yeah.
And also, I think another thing that he has no idea about is if somebody's laughing at him. If somebody's laughing at him, he
like
thinks
making fun of him.
Right. He thinks they're laughing with him, so he laughs too. So that's another angle of that.
I know. So, it's kind of a deeper topic when you go that route, but it's something that I'm trying to think now, how can we teach him that and help him understand it? Because with his autism, he still has a lot of cognitive issues, which means he doesn't understand a lot of things.
That's the problem, because he's not able, there's no way we can teach him those things right now, because he just, sorry.
It's okay.
Got a frog in my throat.
Ribbit.
He just would not understand the concept of being made fun of or somebody trying to touch him inappropriately. I don't know. He's just not able cognitively there to understand that concept.
Which is, then we have to keep him in a extremely tight bubble in a lot of ways, but we can't, because we want to help him get out into the world and learn how to function.
And our job is to make sure that he's around the right people and the people that we trust.
That's it. And I think about that, and I heard what you said, and then I think, gosh, when you hear these stories about people who were molested when they were children, it's almost always by somebody that was a family member or someone that was like family that was trusted. And I'm not saying that's anybody in our circle. However, that's the sad truth, is that sometimes it's the ones that you think are okay and they're not. And Bryce wouldn't even know to tell us anything. Right. I mean, he loves to be tickled. So he, who knows what he would be thinking. But I can tell you one thing that I have been doing on a consistent basis, and with that in mind, is when he comes out of the shower, he always wants, because I usually get him dressed if I'm here. He wants me to dress him or help him get dressed. And he wants to snuggle. Again, he's 5. But I will always tell him, we cannot snuggle until you get your underwear on. And you have to have clothes on to snuggle with anybody. You don't snuggle with mommy. You don't snuggle with daddy. You don't snuggle with anybody unless you have your clothes on. You have to have clothes on to do snuggles. That's like the best way that I can think that, at least, God forbid, if somebody were trying to get him to remove his clothes or something like that, hopefully that would register that, oh no, we can't snuggle without the clothes on. You know what I mean?
So let me ask you then, since you've been doing that, is he still running up to you trying to snuggle before he gets dressed?
He will say the word snuggle, but he never gives me grief about putting on his underwear first.
So you still have to redirect him.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So again, he's not grasping the concept that we know of.
I mean, obviously it hasn't been tested, thank God, but yeah.
Right.
But maybe talking about this with you, maybe I'll go one step further. So the next time he comes in, I'll just say, before snuggles, what do we do first? And let him say it, instead of me saying it.
Yeah.
To make sure that he's drilling, that it's drilled home, no snuggles unless you have your clothes on.
And I think everybody who has somebody on the spectrum knows that you have to think outside the box and always try different angles to get things accomplished and make forward progress. I mean, especially kids on the spectrum, if they hear something one way, it's a firm no, a stone wall no, on the edge of a meltdown. But if you rephrase it or put it in a different light, sometimes they can just go with it and not be oblivious and be oblivious to whatever the first suggestion was.
That's true. Yeah. It's all about how he learns it, how he processes it, and then it's kind of in stone. So if we can get that in stone for him, once it's there, it will be there, and nobody would ever, he would have a full meltdown before he would let somebody try to snuggle with him in an inappropriate way. You know what I mean? And that's what I want.
And you hope that whoever it is doesn't try a different angle on it.
Right. And
what I was saying is we need to try different angles on him to get him to understand the concept.
I got you. Different ways. Yeah. And I realize parents, nobody wants to really think about this. It's just that when you have, like in our case with Bryce, I know that he is just going to be very vulnerable in many, many ways.
He's a happy-go-lucky kid for the most part.
Happy boy.
He doesn't expect bad things to happen to him.
No. And I think, you want to teach any child what's appropriate and what's not. But I also believe that most children, just as we all do, there's a point where we recognize that we have private parts, and we recognize that this is okay and this is not okay. And this person, nobody can see this and nobody can touch that. And it kind of comes natural, because God created us with that nature, that we know that.
I would imagine.
But Bryce doesn't have that.
We don't have any other kids that are almost 6, so I don't know. I can't speak for other dads, but I would think that other almost 6 years old kids would understand stranger danger. Is that true?
I would think so too.
And so Bryce has no clue on that.
And I know that's not across the board, because I've heard other parents say, "Oh, my kid doesn't know any, strangers," but they kind of can get that concept of stranger danger, especially if they're taught. Mm-hmm. But I think it even comes natural, like, I don't know you, but I know, like, I have another friend and her daughter who is Bryce's age. She doesn't know a stranger. She'll just go over to the neighbor's house and strike up a conversation. That's because she's just very friendly, like very outgoing, a personality, and I think if somebody tried to say something wrong to her, she'd call them out on it or do something wrong. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Bryce just doesn't even understand not just the concept of strangers as much as reading emotions and reading intentions.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a huge social deficit that does not come natural to him, that will require lots of teaching and lots of protection until it is taught. Mm-hmm. And I felt like it was it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly and something that should be brought to light. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I really wanted to kind of dig a little deeper on the social aspect, because it's not just all about, oh, will you play with others? Oh, that's great. He has a friend. Like you took him back to the Space Center this week and you sent me the text and the picture saying that he's like, you find friends, and then he found a little boy and he says, I found a friend. Yeah, we were walking up to the
playground and he says, where's your friends? And then he said something else, and I forget what it was. And then he said he found a little boy about his age to follow, and he says, you found a friend, which means I found a friend. Yeah. So it was very cute.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. Like, he's grown in so many ways that he will now say, hey, I that looks like a friend for me, and I'm going to go play with him. And the kids don't always respond to him, but I don't think that little boy minded that Bryce followed him, right?
Right. And that brings to mind that I think Bryce does understand that adults are not somebody that he would ask to play with. He seems in tune to the fact that he only really plays with kids his age, like on a playground or in a play setting. Right. He doesn't go up to other adults on the playground and ask them to play or be his friend or whatever. So I think he does have a little bit of an understanding there as far as age goes and who.
I think he learned that at school, being in pre-K, because they would play on the playground every day. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the teachers that were going on the slide and the monkey bars. It was his peers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the thing. Bryce is highly intelligent. He really is. I mean, he has exceptional memory skills. He's very clever. He can definitely process thoughts that surprise me that are coming out of him. He's figuring things out, and
he's
I
a good
love
negotiator.
that. He's a very good negotiator. Tries to get around things, but he also he's just still learning so much, So there's like, once he's taught, he gets it. Like, he was taught the concept of the playground with friends, he got it. But we have to recognize where he needs to be taught. And again, I just want to be proactive and not reactive to situations. And so that was something there. Another thing, I don't have my glasses on, so it's hard to read my notes. I'm keeping it real here. Another thing with him is he has very brief interactions with people. He has a hard time sustaining attention to any kind of subject. If we're trying to talk to him, and engage with him and be social in that way, it's very brief. And in fact, he now will say, after he's answered a few questions for me, you did a good job talking. Okay, Bryce, all done, because he knows that I would be saying, oh, you did a good job talking. Thank you. It's like in his mind, he knows he needs to have some conversation. But when he's done, he's done. And he wants you to just acknowledge, okay, I gave you something. Now let me go back to what I was doing. I came to your world. I answered a few questions for you. I'd like to go back to my world. But at least he's able to communicate that more, but it's definitely going to be something that we're trying to continue to work with him and get him engaged. And that's another reason why we try to expand his topics of interest, because as he meets friends, and he goes into kindergarten and first grade and second grade, most kids like a variety of things and not just one thing. They may have a favorite thing or two, but the more we can, expand his interest and give him the ability to have more conversations that have different topics, then the better chance that he's going to actually make friends. You know what I'm saying? And build on friendships, because a lot of friendships are built on having common ground.
Right.
I mean, even as an adult, you're going to be drawn to the ones that you have common ground with.
Any astronauts out there, he'll be friends with.
He would be friends with astronauts or race car drivers right now. That would be great. Or a pilot.
Yes,
if you're a pilot, he would be your friend as well. But most 5 and 6 year olds are not astronauts or pilots.
Right.
But, there are other kids that like space. And I'm telling you, that's what he's going to eventually learn, to be able to have conversations like that, and learning to take turn in a conversation and to go back and forth. But, that will come in time. I'm not worried about that so much, as much as I am about, helping him recognize and understand other people. And like you were saying about, especially with kids, like what we had witnessed, or what I had witnessed at the Space Center, where he couldn't read that a kid was actually being mean to him. And instead, Bryce was smiling and all happy. And
because the kid was interacting in his eyes.
Yeah, in his mind, the kid was like, oh, he's playing with the door with me. He's just on the other side, where the kid was like, what is this? What's this kid's problem and why is he doing this? Bryce could not read that at all. And, those are my concerns, that somehow we've got to learn how to teach him to read emotions and to read what people are feeling and understand what people are saying. Because even like with emotions with me, he will say to me, I said I had a headache the other night, and I did. And I think I had said to him in passing, yes, it hurt so bad I could cry, right? I just said that in passing. Well, then he heard that word and cried. Then he's like, cry, Mommy. Cry. Cry now, Mommy. Cry. Cry, Mommy. Water on your face. Cry, Mommy. He was intrigued, like, oh, I want to see water come out of her eyes because she said she's got a headache and she's going to cry. And I'm like, I don't cry on demand, bud,
Yeah.
But he doesn't get that at all. And I could see if he said that to another peer, they're not going to be understanding like I am. You know what I mean?
Well, he was getting a little upset because you weren't crying.
He was. So I started fake crying a little, but then he was upset that there weren't any tears. And, I'm not a soap opera actress, so I just can't cry on demand and cry crocodile tears. But, it's like that kind of stuff that you realize these are areas that we definitely need to work with him. And how do we work with him on that? And I don't know. I mean, we don't have ABA services now. And I'm sure that's probably things that we could go and Google and work on, and we will. But these are the kind of things that we come upon week after week that we realize we need to work on with him. It's a whole other level of parenting that I don't think all parents have to encounter if they don't have a child with special needs. Again, I'm only talking about Bryce, but I have to think in my mind that a lot of things that don't come natural to him, we have that responsibility to teach, because it's not going to come natural to him.
Right. And the only other key to that is him being mature enough and to be able to understand what we're trying to teach him.
And that's just going to come with
time.
Time and him learning and being more cognitive and understanding and processing what we're saying. And I don't know, I guess as we continue to expose him to the world and to life, and expose him to new books and expose him to new movies and new conversations. I hope that those things will start to register. If he starts watching, like he just started watching Little Einsteins, and he's really drawn to that because they have music and he loves that. They have a rocket ship that they ride around in, so that's cool for him. But, hopefully they can help teach him like emotions and stuff too, but he still mirrors and mimics a lot. And he does learn from what he's seeing and what he's hearing, but does he know how to apply it appropriately? That's kind of where we're at on that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do you have any other thoughts on that? Or
no, I was just, my mind was wandering to when we were serving at church this week, and how much fun it was with him, because we're doing the At the Movie series.
Yeah.
And they had the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon in there. I know this is off topic, but it was, so I didn't even say anything. I was like, look at the spaceship. Let's go look inside. And so he's like, that's the cockpit. He was so excited, and all the buttons and switches worked in it. And so he was just so excited about that. And he really helped me at the church, pushing the cart with stuff on it. And he just really wanted to be a part of it, and he really enjoys it. So it's just another area that we can build on with him, that he's enjoying right now, helping Daddy at church. And
he gets to interact and socialize there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He gets to meet Mr. Brian and see
there's
him
no other
and
kids
other
there,
people
but
there.
yeah.
And it doesn't. I understand. It gets preached to us by therapists that he needs to be with peers and interact with them and learn from them, because he'll learn from them best. But his mind also thinks more mature thoughts than some of his peers, and I don't have a problem that he's interacting with adults as well. I want him to be able to interact with kids his age, kids of all ages, and adults of all ages.
Yeah, he was interacting with a peer at the pool last week or the week before. The little boy, he was about his age.
Oh, I hear Bryce getting closer.
I've heard him the whole time.
I know, but he's getting closer.
But the little boy was swimming, and Bryce was like, he thought it was really cool, and he wanted to show the boy that he knew how to swim too. So he was interacting that way, and that was really good.
And that's what I'm seeing now. If he is around kids, he doesn't just ignore them. He acknowledges that they're there, and he wants to play.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it's like we've overcome the hurdle of him acknowledging peers and wanting to interact, which is wonderful. But then he's got to learn how to interact with them appropriately. And I think if he's not feeling like love for them and he's just getting to know them, he seems to do okay. Although there are some kids, like if he really likes them, he gets in their face too close and, that sort of thing. But I haven't seen him really do that at the playground. I find him more just kind of following. But, it's just going to depend on how the other child is. Some of them are like, hey, come along, we'll show you, and then he's fine. Others just ignore him, and that's fine. That's part of life, and that's what I want him to learn, because that is part of life.
At the pool, this same little boy, he came down to the pool while we were already in the pool, and they were under a gazebo thingamadoodle getting suntan lotion put on, and Bryce got out of the pool and walked over to him to grab his hand to come into the pool with him. And so there's a social boundary that he kind of crossed, because it's really not socially appropriate to go up to another child and expect them to do what you want them to do,
right?
And take their hand,
right?
That violates the personal space.
Yeah.
And so his mom was very nice about it and said, "Oh, we're just putting lotion on him, and then he can go in the pool with you." And then I called Bryce back to the pool, so it all worked out.
Yep. But those are the kind of situations that we'll run into. That again, we're just explaining to him one by one as we have those opportunities. But anyway, I hope that, that's going to be a little more helpful and insightful as to a larger realm of what it's like dealing with social aspects and how that really applies to autism, because that is one of the major symptoms is, people with autism, young or old, sometimes can have a difficulty with reading emotions, understanding where people are coming from, the interacting part and how to do it, whether you're too withdrawn or you're too forward. There's just a lot more to it than just, hey, can you make a friend? Okay, Bryce is, I don't know what he's doing out there.
Let's bring him in to sign us off.
Yeah, let's do that. Go get him real quick. He'll be ready to say something.
Come here, buddy. Come here. Come here, say hi to everybody.
Say hi.
Yeah.
Come say hi.
Say hi.
You ready?
Hi. It's Snuggle.
Oh, you want to snuggle? Okay.
I will snuggle my lap.
Say thank you for listening to episode 20.
Episode 20.
Say thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you for listening.
In your funny voice.
And you're funny.
I will sit my lap.
You're sitting on my lap. What are we going to do today? Do you know?
I will need to.
What are we going to do today? Do you want to see fireworks?
The TV?
Only on the TV, yeah.
Yeah, because it's too loud outside.
Do you want to go swimming?
Why should I snuggle with Mommy?
You just want to snuggle with Mommy?
Okay.
Okay.
You can snuggle with Mommy. Say we'll see you next time.
Right there. Say it right there. Say see you next
See you
time.
next time.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Happy 4th.
See ya.